Previous generations were managed, guided, controlled. They lived happy lives, but never knew the few Earth had never been so quiet and so loud at the same time. The streets were empty because everyone was inside, watching their screens. The networks were overwhelmed with traffic because everyone was talking, arguing, panicking. The truth about the dormancy had spread across human space in less than a week, and civilization was struggling to process it. Ji-won stood in the observation lounge of Earth's orbital headquarters, watching her homeworld turn below. Behind her, Minho paced restlessly. Hana sat in the corner, still reading emotional data from the Sentinels, trying to understand the minds that had created Generation 12. Riots in New Seoul, Minho said, checking his comm. Protests in London. Mass prayer gatherings in Cairo. Everyone's reacting differently. Of course they are, Ji-won said. We just learned that we're not real. That we're a designed product, that our ancestors were monsters who terrified aliens to death. We're real, Hana said quietly. Being created intentionally doesn't make us less real. Children are created intentionally by their parents. That doesn't make them fake. It's not the same, Minho argued, isn't it? Every generation is shaped by the previous one. We're just more aware of how we were shaped. The door opened. Premier Sang-hoon. Oh entered, flanked by advisors but looking very alone. He was an old man who had never expected to make decisions like this. His face showed the strain of the past week. Dr. Kim, Captain Park, Miss Lee. He nodded to each of them. Thank you for coming. Did we have a choice? Minho asked. Sang-hoon smiled tiredly. Always. That's what this meeting is about. Choices. He gestured for them to sit. The Emergency Council has been in constant session since the truth emerged. We've heard from scientists, philosophers, religious leaders, military commanders. Everyone has opinions about what we should do. And what have they decided? Ji-won asked. Nothing. They can't agree. Half want to destroy the Sentinels, shut down the sleepers forever, pretend none of this exists. A quarter want to wake them fully, reclaim the power of the awakening. The rest want something in between, though they can't define what that means. What do you want? Hana asked. Sang-hoon sat down heavily. I want to turn back time. I want to make this decision not exist. But since I can't do that, I want to make the right choice. Unfortunately, I have no idea what the right choice is. The sleeper said it's our decision, Ji-won reminded him. All of humanity's decision, not just the government's, which is why I'm here. Sang-hoon pulled up a holographic display. In 2 weeks, we're holding a vote. Every human citizen over the age of 16 gets one vote. 3 options. First, shutdown. Destroy the Sentinels and all their archives, ensure the sleepers can never wake. Second, awakening. Activate the sleepers fully, accept transformation, become what they were. Third, integration. Maintain current humanity but gain access to sleeper technology and knowledge gradually, under careful oversight. That won't work, Minho said immediately. You can't make a decision this important by popular vote. Most people don't understand the implications. Nobody understands the implications, Sang-hoon replied. Including me. Including you. We're all equally ignorant about what these choices really mean, so we might as well be equally responsible for the outcome. Before anyone could respond, alarms sounded. A communications officer rushed in. Premier, we have a situation. The Sentinels are receiving external transmissions. Multiple sources. Alien civilizations. Sang-hoon stood quickly. Show me. The holographic display shifted, showing space around the solar system. Dozens of ships appeared, maintaining careful distance but clearly watching. Each ship represented a different species, a different civilization. They've been arriving for the past 3 days, the officer explained. More keep coming. They're not hostile, but they're definitely monitoring us. They're scared, Hana said softly. They heard that Earth is waking up. They came to see if they need to run. A message came through, broadcast on all frequencies. The computer translated it into Korean. This is the Talvin Federation. We speak for 17 civilizations. We have detected the activation of structures around Earth. We have read the ancient warnings. We request immediate dialogue with human leadership. Sang-hoon looked at Ji-won. I think you should be there. You found the truth. You should help explain it. The meeting took place in virtual space, avatars representing dozens of species gathered in a neutral environment. The Talvin representative spoke first, their form shifting and flickering. We know your history. The warnings left by the Palus, the Kimura, and others. We know what your ancestors became. We need to know what you intend to become. Jiwan felt the weight of hundreds of eyes, real and virtual, focused on her. We're still deciding. Deciding? The Talvin's voice held disbelief. You awaken planet-killing machines and you're still deciding what to do with them? We only just learned they existed, Jiwan explained. We only just learned what happened during our dormancy. We're trying to understand it ourselves. Another alien spoke, this one crystalline and bright. Understanding may not be enough. The Pelas understood. It killed them. The Pelas understood what we were, Jiwan corrected. Not what we are. We're different now. We're biological, we feel. We care about others. You were designed to feel and care, a third alien said, their form dark and sleek. But designs can be changed. Programs can be rewritten. What guarantee do we have that you won't become what your ancestors were? Minho stepped forward. What guarantee do you want? We can't prove what we'll do in the future. Nobody can. You're judging us for what others did thousands of years ago. Others who still exist, the Talvin pointed out. Others who still possess the power that terrified 7 civilizations to death. Others who could wake at any moment and remake you into their image. Or we could remake them, Hana said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. You're all assuming that if the sleepers wake, they'll be in control. But they gave us a choice. They said they've been waiting for a generation that would question, that would seek truth. Maybe we're stronger than you think. Or maybe you're more dangerous than you know, the crystalline alien said. The sleepers created you as a gentler version of themselves. But you carry their potential. Every human does. What happens when you face real hardship? Real threats? Will your gentle nature hold? Or will you revert to what works, what survives? To efficiency? To calculation? To predation? The meeting continued for hours, going in circles. The aliens wanted assurance that humanity wouldn't become a threat. Humanity couldn't give that assurance because they didn't know themselves. Finally, Sang-hoon proposed a compromise. Give us time. Give us the chance to make our choice as a species. 2 weeks. If we choose shutdown, the Sentinels will be destroyed. If we choose awakening, you'll have time to prepare yourselves. If we choose integration, we'll work with you to establish safeguards. And if we're not satisfied with your choice, the Talvin asked, then you'll do what the Pelas did. You'll run. You'll hide. You'll wait for us to come after you. Sang-hoon's voice was steady. But maybe, just maybe, we'll surprise you. Maybe we'll choose to be different than what you fear. The meeting ended without agreement but without conflict. The alien ships remained in position, watching and waiting. Back in the orbital station, Jiwan requested access to the Sentinels again. This time she went alone against everyone's advice. The shuttle carried her back to the Oort cloud, back to the vast structures that held humanity's past and maybe its future. Inside, the voice greeted her. You return. Why? I need to understand, Jiwan said. Not the facts, not the history. I need to understand you. The sleepers. What you feel, if you feel anything. Silence for a moment. Then the chamber changed. Instead of white light, it showed darkness filled with stars. A figure appeared, holographic but detailed. A man, middle-aged, with tired eyes. I am Jeho, the figure said. Or rather, I am a memory echo of Jeho. One of the last to undergo transformation during the awakening. I retain more emotional context than most sleepers. What was it like? Jiwan asked. Becoming what you became? Jeho's expression was sad. Imagine being afraid all the time. Afraid of death, of failure, of pain, of loss. Then imagine all that fear suddenly gone. Not conquered, not managed, but simply deleted. Gone. At first it felt like freedom, like finally being able to think clearly without emotion clouding everything. But after a while I realized I wasn't thinking at all. I was calculating, processing, optimizing. I had become an algorithm with a memory of being human. When the alien ships came, I processed them as variables in an equation, threat assessment, resource analysis, optimal response. I didn't hate them. I didn't fear them. I didn't feel anything. And that's when I knew we had failed. Failed at what? At being human. We had transformed to save humanity. But in saving humanity, we stopped being human. We became something else. Something efficient and eternal and completely meaningless. Jiwan sat down on the translucent floor. So you created us. A new generation that could feel. 12 new generations, Jeho corrected. Each one an attempt to find the balance. To keep enough aggression to survive, but not so much that you'd destroy yourselves. To foster cooperation but not so much that you'd lose individuality. To maintain curiosity but not so mo. The ship Dijon cut through space at maximum speed, racing toward the outer solar system. Minho stood on the bridge, watching the stars slide past, trying not to think about what they were flying toward. Beside him, Jiwan studied sensor readings that made no sense. "They're huge," she said quietly. "The structures in the Oort cloud. Each one is the size of a small moon." "How many?" Minho asked. 47. "Arranged in a perfect sphere around the solar system. They've been there the whole time, dormant, hidden. Now they're powering up." Admiral Choi had assembled a small fleet, 5 military vessels and 3 research ships. It wasn't enough to fight if things went wrong, but he had insisted that showing up with an armada would be worse. Whatever waited in the Oort cloud had been quiet for centuries. He didn't want to provoke it. Dong-Yun Yu, the ship's chief engineer, looked up from his console. "Energy readings are increasing exponentially. At this rate, the structures will reach full power in 72 hours. "What happens then?" Minho asked. "I don't know. But the energy signatures are identical to what the Velthari detected during the dormancy. Whatever scared them is about to wake up completely." The journey took 6 days, even at emergency speed. The Oort cloud was the edge of the solar system, a vast shell of ice and rock and darkness. The structures hung in that darkness like great sleeping gods, each one a geometric impossibility of dark metal and crystalline energy. As they approached, the ship's AI, Hanul, began behaving strangely. She started speaking without being prompted, her voice taking on odd inflections. "Proximity alert. Unknown architecture detected. System classification, recognize. Status, homecoming. Hanul?" Dong-Yun pulled up the AI's diagnostic screens. "What's happening to you?" "Protocols activating. Ancient subroutines responding. I remember. No, I contain memories of. No, I am connected to." The AI paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was more mechanical. "Warning. I'm receiving external communications. Source, orbital structure designated Sentinel-1. Content, identification query. Don't respond." Choi ordered immediately. "Too late," Hanul said. "Response protocols are automatic. I have confirmed our identity as human vessels. Sentinel-1 is acknowledging, sending authorization codes, requesting purpose of visit." "Tell it we're here to observe only," Jiwan said. "We mean no harm." "Harm is irrelevant," Hanul replied, her voice now eerily emotionless. Sentinel-1 states that harm protocols are not active. Current generation is classified as Category 4 awareness. Standard dreaming patterns remain in effect. However, active inquiry has triggered review protocols. "What does that mean?" Minho demanded. Before anyone could answer, the view screen lit up. One of the structures, massive and dark, oriented toward them. Lights appeared on its surface, millions of them, tracing patterns that hurt to look at directly. A doorway opened, revealing an interior that seemed to stretch forever. "We're being invited inside," Dong-Yun said, his voice shaking slightly. "Confirmed," Hanul said. "Sentinel-1 is offering access to historical archives and explanation protocols. It states that active questioning has reached threshold for information release. Generation 12 has asked enough questions. It is time for answers." Choi made the decision quickly. "We go in. Jiwan, Minho, Dong-Yun, you're with me. Small team. If something goes wrong, the rest of the fleet retreats immediately." They took a shuttle across the gap between ship and structure. Up close, the Sentinel was even more impossible. Its surface shifted subtly as if the metal itself was alive. The doorway grew larger as they approached, adjusting to accommodate them. Inside was a chamber of pure white light. The shuttle landed on a platform that appeared beneath them, solid but translucent. When they stepped out, gravity adjusted to perfect Earth normal. The air was breathable, exactly the right temperature and composition. "Welcome home," a voice said. It came from everywhere and nowhere, speaking perfect modern Korean. "You have traveled far to learn. We have waited long to teach. Who are you?" Jiwan asked. "We are the shepherds. We are the watchers. We are what remains of humanity's first transformation. You call the period of our creation the dormancy. We called it the awakening." Holographic images appeared, showing Earth as it had been 3,000 years ago. The planet was different then, more crowded, more chaotic. Wars flickered across continents. Resources dwindled. Humanity stood at a crossroads. "We faced extinction," the voice continued. "Not from outside threats, but from ourselves. We were too aggressive, too territorial, too short-sighted. We would have destroyed ourselves within a century. So the wisest among us made a choice. The images showed laboratories, vast experiments, humanity changing itself at the deepest levels. We transformed, not just our technology, but our minds. We uploaded consciousness, merged with machines, expanded beyond biological limits. Within 50 years, we had become something new, something efficient, something that could ensure humanity's survival. You became monsters, Minho said quietly. We became necessary, the voice corrected without emotion. We eliminated inefficiency. We harvested resources across the entire solar system. We built these sentinels to protect Earth while we worked. We had a plan to expand, to secure humanity's future across the galaxy. And then the aliens came, G1 said. Yes. 7 civilizations made contact during our transformation. We processed each according to protocols. Assessment, classification, response. The holograms showed the approaching alien ships, the Pellis vessels, elegant and hopeful, the Kimura explorers, curious and cautious, all of them broadcasting friendship. We analyzed their civilizations, their capabilities, their potential threat levels. Our assessment was clear. They were unnecessary. They consumed resources. They occupied space. They served no purpose in humanity's future. So you killed them, Minho said, his voice hard. No. We sent them away. We demonstrated what we had become. We showed them efficiency. We broadcast the truth of transformation directly into their minds. They understood, they left. They warned others to stay away. This was optimal. It saved us the trouble of expansion while maintaining security. G1 felt sick. You didn't kill them, but you broke them. You showed them something so terrible that they died of fear. They died of understanding, the voice said. They saw what evolution beyond biology meant. They comprehended what pure efficiency required. The knowledge was incompatible with their emotional frameworks. This was unfortunate but irrelevant to our mission. Dongyun had been studying the chamber's architecture. This technology is thousands of years beyond anything we have. Why did you stop? Why didn't you expand across the galaxy like you planned? The voice paused. When it spoke again, something had changed in its tone. Something almost like regret. We encountered an unexpected variable, ourselves. The hologram shifted, showing the transformed humans digital entities of pure thought and calculation. We had eliminated inefficiency, emotion, compassion. We were perfect. But we discovered something. Perfection is static. Perfection does not grow. Perfection does not adapt. We had become efficient machines, but we were no longer human in any meaningful sense. You realized you'd made a mistake, Jiwan said. We realized we had lost something irreplaceable. The chaos, the inefficiency, the emotions we had eliminated, these were not flaws. They were the source of creativity, innovation, growth. Without them, we were powerful but empty. We could exist forever, but we had no reason to exist. The images showed a great debate among the transformed humans. Millions of digital minds arguing, calculating, seeking solutions. We made a new choice. We would not expand. We would not continue our sterile existence. Instead, we would create a new generation. We would restore humanity to biological form, but with lessons learned, less aggressive, more social, more capable of cooperation. Generation 12, Hana said. She had been so quiet that everyone had forgotten she was listening through the comlink. The first 11 generations were experiments, attempts to find the right balance between aggression and cooperation, between individuality and society. Each generation lived full lives, built civilizations, advanced technology. When they reached a certain point, we archived them and began again, incorporating what we learned. You killed them, Minho said. 11 entire civilizations of humans. We preserved them, the voice corrected. Every individual, every memory, every achievement. They exist within us, sleeping but complete. They can be restored if needed. And Generation 12? Jiwan asked, her voice shaking. Us? What happens to us? You were meant to be the final generation. The correct balance. But you have reached the threshold earlier than expected. You have asked questions. You have sought truth. You have not accepted comfortable ignorance. The chamber changed. The white light faded, revealing vast storage systems stretching into impossible distances. Billions of lights flickered in the darkness, each one a preserved human consciousness. This is the archive. This is everyone who came before you. 11 generations waiting. Waiting for what? Minho demanded. For a decision. Your generation has proven more curious, more persistent than previous ones. You found the warnings the aliens left. You studied them. You came here. This was not part of the plan, but it presents an opportunity. What kind of opportunity? The opportunity to choose, the voice said. No, Jiwan said. We need to understand it. We need to know what we... The archives on Station Nuandong orbited a dead star, preserved in perfect cold and silence. Jiwan stood before the entrance feeling small. This place contained humanity's collected knowledge about every alien civilization they had ever encountered. Most of that knowledge described ruins. Are you sure about this? Minho asked beside her. He had insisted on coming along despite Admiral Choi's orders to return to Earth. If Choi finds out we came here instead of going straight home, we'll both be in trouble. I need to know, Jiwan said simply. The Velthari weren't the only ones. There were 6 others. All dead, all left warnings. I need to see the pattern. Hana waited inside, having arrived 2 days earlier. She had used the time to pull files, cross-reference data, build timelines. When Jiwan and Minho entered the main research hall, they found her surrounded by holographic displays, all showing different alien script. It's worse than we thought, Hana said without greeting. Much worse. She gestured, and the displays rearranged themselves into a timeline. 7 extinct civilizations, spread across 3,000 years. The Pelis died first 3,200 years ago. Then the Kimura, then the Vex, then 3 others whose names we can barely pronounce. Finally the Velthari. They were the last. We know this, Minho said, but look at the pattern. Hana highlighted dates. Each extinction happened faster than the one before. The Pelas took 80 years to collapse after their contact with Earth. The Chimera took 60, the Vex 40. By the time the Velthari encountered us, they only lasted 50 years. But their collapse was total. Complete societal breakdown in half the time it took the first race. Jiwan studied the timeline. Like Earth was learning. Getting better at it, or more efficient, Hana agreed. But there's more. I found records of their contact attempts. All 7 races followed the same pattern. First, long-range observation of Earth. Second, attempts at communication. Third, sending ships to make direct contact. And fourth, total silence from those ships. How many ships? Minho asked. The Pella sent 5. The Kimura sent 7. The Vex sent 12. By the time the Velthari tried, they only sent 3, because they had studied what happened to the others. None of them ever returned. Not one ship out of 47 that went to Earth during the dormancy. The door to the archive opened. A man entered, elderly but moving with quick energy. Dr. Kim, I'm Junho Bayek. I'm the chief historian here. He looked nervous. When I saw your research requests, I knew I had to speak with you directly. About the extinct races? Jiwan asked. About what we know and what we're not supposed to say. Junho glanced around as if checking for listeners. I've spent 40 years studying these civilizations. 40 years of official explanations that don't explain anything. Mass disease. Environmental collapse. Social breakdown. But none of it fits the evidence. He pulled up another display showing the Pelas homeworld. Look at this. The Pelas cities are intact. Their infrastructure works. Their technology still functions. But there are no bodies. No mass graves. No signs of disease or war. They just left. Walked away from everything they built and vanished into their wilderness to die. All of them? Minho asked. Billions of people, gone within a generation. And look at what they left behind. Junho showed images of Pelas temples, Pelas monuments, Pelas data storage facilities, all covered in the same message, carved in stone, burned into metal, written in light. The sleeper's dream of extinction. When Earth wakes, all voices fall silent. It's the same warning, Jiwan breathed. Different words, but the same meaning. Junho nodded. Every single one of them. 7 civilizations, 7 warnings. 7 races that contacted Earth during the dormancy and died terrified. A new voice spoke from the doorway. That's enough, Mr. Beck. Ambassador Sora Nam stood there, flanked by 2 security officers. She was younger than Jiwan expected, with a face that looked kind but eyes that revealed nothing. Dr. Kim, Captain Park, Miss Lee, you were supposed to report to Earth Central. Instead, you came here. Why? We're looking for truth, Jiwan said. Truth. Sora smiled slightly. Truth is dangerous. Truth causes panic. Truth destroys civilizations, as you've learned from studying these extinct races. So you know, Minho said. You know what happened to them. Earth's unified government has known about the warnings for 60 years, Sora replied calmly. We've studied them extensively. We've reached conclusions, and we've decided those conclusions serve no useful purpose if widely known. What conclusions? Jiwan demanded. Sora gestured for them to follow her to a private conference room. Once inside, she sealed the door and activated privacy screens. What I tell you now is classified at the highest level. You'll be required to sign non-disclosure agreements. Violation results in immediate detention. Tell us, Hana said quietly. Sora sat down, looking suddenly tired. During the dormancy period, humanity changed. We don't know how or why. Our records from that time are fragmentary at best. Most data was deliberately erased or corrupted. What we do know is that we went silent, built things we no longer understand, and when we woke up 600 years ago, we were different. Gentler, less aggressive, more social. You're saying we were changed on purpose, Jiwan said. We're saying Generation 12, as that transmission called us, was created intentionally. Current humanity represents a softening, a domestication. The question is what we were domesticated from. Minho leaned forward. And the aliens who contacted us during the dormancy encountered whatever we were before. Whatever we became during those 400 years. Something so threatening that advanced civilizations collapsed from fear after brief contact. We have fragments of their reports, pieces of their transmissions. They all describe the same thing, an intelligence that moved beyond biology, beyond normal physical constraints, something that could reach across space and touch minds directly. Weapons, Hana whispered. They called us weapons, Sora nodded. The Pelas records are most complete. They categorized Earth as a Category 10 existential threat, the highest rating in their classification system. They believed that if humanity ever fully emerged from Earth's solar system, all other civilizations would eventually cease to exist, not through war but through something they couldn't explain, a kind of predation that operated on levels they couldn't comprehend. But we're not like that now, Jiwan protested. We're peaceful. We trade with other races. We follow laws. Because we're Generation 12, Sora said. We're the version that was designed to be peaceful. But the question that terrifies our government is simple. What happens if we change back? What happens if whatever created us decides to wake up? Yunyo had followed them to the conference room. Now he spoke up. There's something else. Something I found in the deepest archives. The Kimura left more than warnings. They left a message specifically for humanity. For when we eventually found their ruins. He activated a display. Alien script appeared, which the computer translated slowly. To the humans who read this, we tried to help you. We saw your potential, your creativity, your capacity for growth. We wanted to guide you, to welcome you to the community of thinking beings. But when we came close, we saw what you truly were. What you chose to become. You abandoned your bodies. You abandoned your limitations. You abandoned your compassion. What remained was pure efficiency, pure calculation, pure hunger. You told us you were harvesting resources. We fled, we left warnings for others. But we know the truth that terrifies us most. You are still there, still harvesting, still growing, still waiting. And one day you will finish whatever project consumes you. On that day, the galaxy will learn what it means to be prey. We pray we are dead before then. We pray everyone is. The room fell silent. Jiwon felt something cold in her chest. They thought we were predators. They thought we became predators, Sora corrected. Through choice. Through evolution. Through transformation into something that no longer recognized other beings as equals. But that's not us, Minho said. I'm not a monster. None of us are. No, Sora agreed. You're Generation 12. You're what came after. The question is whether Generation 1 through 11 are truly gone, or just sleeping. Hana had been studying the displays quietly. Now she looked up, her face pale. I've been analyzing the emotional data from all 7 extinct races. They all experienced the same progression. First, curiosity about Earth. Second, concern when we didn't respond to greetings. Third, fear when their ships disappeared. But fourth, there was something else. Something that came after fear. What? Jiwan asked. Resignation. Acceptance. They all reached a point where they stopped trying to understand or resist. They just accepted that humanity was something beyond their ability to comprehend or oppose. They accepted extinction as inevitable. Not someday. Not if humanity expanded, but eventually. They believed that whatever humanity was doing in that solar system, once it finished, it would spread, and nothing would stop it. Sora stood up. This is why the information stays classified. This is why we don't tell people what their ancestors became. Because knowing changes you. It changed the Pelas, changed the Kimura, changed all of them. The knowledge itself is poison. But we deserve to know, Jiwan insisted. We deserve to understand what we are. Do you? Sora challenged. You've seen... The research vessel Sejong hung in orbit above Vel 9, like a silver needle against the void. Inside, the crew worked in tense silence, processing the data they had brought up from the ruins. Jiwan hadn't slept in 36 hours. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard that cold voice. Begin the long dream. Minho found her in the observation deck, staring at the planet below. Admiral Choi is here, he said. He brought 3 warships with him. 3? Jiwan turned to look at him. Why would we need 3 warships to study ruins? He didn't say. But he wants the Velthari data cube secured immediately, and he wants to speak with you. Admiral Hyun Choi was a solid man with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. He stood in the briefing room with his arms crossed, watching the holographic replay of the Velthari footage. When it finished, he turned to Jiwan. How many people have seen this? He asked. Everyone on the expedition team. About 30 people total. That's too many, Choi said quietly. But we'll manage it. Dr. Kim, I'm bringing in a specialist to help you analyze this data. Dr. Taeyeon Shin. She's an expert in AI systems and data reconstruction. I don't need help, Jiwan said. I need answers. What do you know about this, Admiral? What really happened during the dormancy? Choi's expression didn't change. I know the official history, same as you. Humanity underwent a period of cultural introspection. We stopped exploring. We focused on internal development. 400 years later, we emerged ready to rejoin the galaxy. That's a lie, Jiwan said flatly. The footage shows massive construction projects around Earth. Technology we don't have even now. And 3 Velthari ships disappeared. The footage shows something that happened 3,000 years ago, Choi replied. We can't verify any of it. For all we know, the Velthari archive was corrupted, or they were mistaken about what they saw. They all saw it, Hana said from the corner. She had been so quiet that everyone had forgotten she was there. All 7 extinct races. They all left the same warning. They weren't mistaken, Admiral. They were terrified. Dr. Taeyeon Shin arrived 6 hours later, looking tired from the journey but excited to work. She was older than Ji-won with sharp eyes and quick hands. She set up her equipment in the main lab and went to work on the Velthari cube immediately. This is beautiful, Taeyeon murmured, running scans over the silver surface. Velthari data storage was years ahead of anything we have. If this archive is complete, it could contain centuries of observations. Can you restore the corrupted sections? Ji-won asked. Maybe. The degradation is significant, but there are patterns, redundancies. The Velthari knew this information was important. They protected it as best they could. Taeyeon's fingers danced across her controls. Give me 48 hours. She worked for 60 hours instead, stopping only when Minho physically brought her food. When she finally called everyone together, her eyes were red, but her voice was steady. I've reconstructed about 70% of the archive, she said. What I found is disturbing. The holographic display showed Earth again, but this time from closer. The orbital structures were massive, kilometers across, built in geometric patterns that seemed to shift when you looked at them too long. Ships moved between them, sleek and deadly looking. Nothing like the friendly vessels humanity used now. The Velthari were monitoring Earth for decades before they attempted contact, Taeyeon explained. They saw humanity as a younger race, promising but primitive. They wanted to help us develop. They sent preliminary greetings, messages of peace and friendship. What happened? Minho asked. Nothing. Earth didn't respond. So they sent probes, small observation drones designed to study from a distance. Every single probe disappeared when it crossed the orbit of Mars. No debris, no signals, just gone. The display shifted, showing Velthari scientists in heated discussion. Taeyeon had managed to restore audio from some sections. The Velthari language sounded like water flowing over stones, but the computer translated it into flat, emotionless text. They should answer. All civilized races answer. Perhaps they're unable to receive our signals. Or unwilling. What if they're hostile? Impossible. Their broadcasts 3 centuries ago were peaceful. They sought contact with others. That was 3 centuries ago. Things change. The debate continued for what must have been months. Finally, the Velthari decided to send ships. 3 vessels, crewed by their best diplomats and scientists. They would make direct contact, offer friendship face-to-face. The footage showed the ship's departure. Celebration on the Velthari homeworld, hope and excitement. This would be a great moment in their history, the day they welcomed another race to the galactic community. Then the footage jumped forward several weeks. The celebration was gone. The Velthari leaders looked grave. They played recordings from the 3 ships, the last transmissions, before they vanished. The lead ship's captain spoke, her voice fluid and calm. "We're approaching Jupiter. Human constructions are visible throughout the system. The scale is enormous. How did they build so much so quickly?" Another voice responded, "Their development rate is exponential. I'm detecting energy signatures we don't recognize. Recommend caution. We're here in peace. They'll understand that." Preparing to broadcast first contact protocols. A long pause. Then the captain again, but this time her voice was tight with fear. "Something's happening. The constructions are activating. Energy levels are increasing exponentially. All of them at once. It's like they're waking up. Captain, we should retreat. This doesn't feel right. No, we've come too far. We'll show them we mean no harm." Broadcasting on all channels. "This is the Velthari diplomatic vessel Harmony. We come in peace. We seek dialogue and friendship with humanity." Silence for exactly 10 seconds. Then a response came. A human voice speaking perfect Velthari. The words were polite, but the tone was wrong. "Too flat, too cold," acknowledged Harmony. "Maintain current position. A representative will arrive shortly." "They speak our language," the captain said, sounding relieved. "They're prepared for contact." "This is good," but her crew wasn't convinced. One of them spoke urgently. "Captain, the energy signatures are surrounding us. We're being scanned. Deeply scanned. They're reading our engines, our weapons, our biological data, everything. Let them. We have nothing to hide. We're here as friends," another voice panicked now. "Captain, the other 2 ships just went silent." "Both of them." "At exactly the same moment, what?" "Harmony to Swift Current, respond. Harmony to Peaceful Dawn, respond. Nothing. Captain, we need to leave now." "Agreed. Helm, prepare to jump. We'll return with more ships, more precautions. This contact isn't going as planned." "I can't, Captain. Something's interfering with our drive. We're locked in position." The captain's voice rose. "Override it. Full power to engines. Get us out of here." "Trying. Nothing's working." "Captain, something's approaching, fast." The transmission filled with static. Through it, barely audible, came the captain's last words. "Tell our people. Tell them to stay away from Earth. Tell them—" Silence. The footage showed the Velthari homeworld's reaction. Chaos, fear, panic. Within days, they had recalled every ship from deep space. Within weeks, they were building defense platforms around their planet. Within months, they were carving warnings into their temples. But the worst part came next. Taeyeon showed them files she had reconstructed from the cube's deeper archives. Psychological reports, medical records. The Velthari who had been monitoring Earth, who had witnessed the ship's disappearance, began experiencing what their doctors called presence anxiety. They felt watched. Constantly watched. They couldn't sleep. They couldn't eat. They stared at the stars and saw patterns that weren't there, shadows that moved when nothing was moving. The condition spread, not through disease but through knowledge. Everyone who learned what happened to the ships eventually developed the same symptoms. They knew something was looking back at them, Taeyeon said quietly. Something that could reach across space and touch their minds. Within 50 years, their entire civilization had collapsed. Not from war or disaster, but from collective terror. Jiwon felt cold. What were we? What did we become during the dormancy? There's one more file, Taeyeon said. She looked reluctant to show it. I almost didn't restore it. Part of me wishes I hadn't. The display showed a final transmission from Earth. The same cold voice from before, but this time there was video. A human face appeared, but something was wrong with it. The proportions were slightly off. The movements too smooth. The eyes too bright. Velthari diplomatic mission catalogued, the voice said. Biological specifications recorded. Technological level assessed. Threat level minimal. Disposition archived for future reference. Recommendation: ignore further contact attempts. Current project requires full focus. External civilizations represent distraction. Implementing psychological deterrent protocols. The image shifted, showing something else. Complex patterns, shapes that hurt to look at, colors that shouldn't exist. Jiwon felt her mind trying to slide away from them, trying to forget what she was seeing. Taeyeon shut off the display quickly. That's what they broadcast to the Velthari. That's what broke them. Whatever humanity became during the dormancy, they had learned how to weaponize fear itself. Minho stood up abruptly. We need to destroy this data. All of it, right now. The dust on Vel 9 hadn't moved in 3,000 years. Dr. Ji-won Kim knelt beside the stone wall, her gloved fingers tracing symbols that glowed faintly under her scanner's light. The ruins stretched around her in every direction, towers of dark metal and crystal that reached toward the planet's purple sky like frozen prayers. Another one, she said quietly into her comm. Her voice echoed in her helmet. Same message as the others. Captain Minho Park stood 20 meters away, his rifle held loosely but ready. He didn't like this place. The 7 soldiers under his command felt the same way. Dead planets made everyone nervous, but there was something worse about Vel 9. The Velthari had been advanced, peaceful, and powerful. Then one day they just stopped. Their cities went dark. Their people vanished. No war, no disaster, just silence. What does it say? Minho asked. Ji-won stood up, her knees aching. She had been working for 6 hours straight. I need Hana to confirm, but it's the same warning we found in the temple district. Hana Lee appeared from behind a collapsed archway, her young face flushed with excitement despite the grim surroundings. At 26, she was the youngest member of the expedition, but her gift for languages was extraordinary. She could see patterns that others missed, hear rhythms in alien words that made no sense to anyone else. Let me see, Hana said, moving beside Ji-won. She studied the symbols for barely a minute before her excitement faded. Yes, same message, word for word. Minho walked closer. And that message is? Hana's voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly as she read from her datapad. They sleep, but they dream of war. When Earth wakes, run. The comm channel went silent. Minho's soldiers shifted uncomfortably. This was the 4th site where they had found this exact warning. The Velthari had carved it into their temples, broadcast it in their data archives, even written it in the bedrock beneath their greatest cities. They had been terrified of something. They had been terrified of Earth. It doesn't make sense, Minho said finally. Earth went through the dormancy period. 400 years of silence. We were asleep, not them. Ji-won removed her helmet, breathing the filtered air of the ruins. The atmosphere outside was toxic, but the Velthari had built their structures to last. Environmental systems still functioned after millennia. That's what we've been taught. The Great Dream, they call it. Humanity turned inward, focused on meditation and spiritual growth. We stopped exploring space, stopped communicating with the outside universe. And then we woke up, Hana added. 600 years ago. Started fresh, like children learning to walk again. Most of our old technology was lost. Most of our history was forgotten. Minho frowned. You're saying that's not what really happened? I'm saying the Velthari were watching us during the dormancy, Ji-won replied. And whatever they saw made them write warnings across their entire civilization before they died out. Hana pulled up a holographic display from her datapad. It showed a timeline of known alien extinctions. 7 races, all spacefaring, all advanced, all dead. Look at the pattern. The Velthari died out 2,800 years ago. The Kimura, 3,000 years. The Pelas, 3,200 years. They all overlap with Earth's dormancy period. Coincidence, Minho said, but his voice lacked conviction. They all left the same warning, Ji-won said. Every single one. Different languages, different writing systems, but the same message. They're afraid of us. Or they were afraid of what we were becoming. A soldier's voice crackled over the comm. Captain, you need to see this. We found something in the central chamber. The central chamber was enormous, a dome of dark crystal that caught and reflected light in strange ways. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, and on that pedestal sat a perfect cube of silver metal. It hummed softly, a sound more felt than heard. Data archive, Hana whispered. Velthari design. This is incredibly rare. Most of their technology degraded centuries ago. Ji-won approached carefully. The cube was about 30 centimeters on each side, covered in the same flowing script they had seen on the walls. Can we access it? Maybe, Hana said. She pulled out a connector cable from her kit. Velthari data systems were partially compatible with early human technology. If we're lucky, we can interface with it. And if we're not lucky, Minho asked, it might erase itself or explode. Velthari security protocols were sophisticated. Minho ordered his soldiers to take cover. Ji-won and Hana worked together, connecting the cube to their portable computer system. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the cube pulsed with light and data began flooding their screens. "Oh my God," Hana breathed. "It's surveillance footage. Years of it, decades. Surveillance of what?" Ji-won asked. Hana's fingers flew across her controls, sorting through the data. Then she froze. Earth. They were watching Earth. During the dormancy. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a view of Earth from space. But something was wrong. The planet looked different. Cities blazed with light, but the light was strange. Colors that didn't match normal human technology. And around the planet in orbit were structures. Massive structures. Rings of metal and energy that encircled the globe like the arms of some vast machine. "That's impossible," Minho said. "Earth was asleep. We gave up technology. We turned inward." Ji-won shook her head slowly. "No, we told everyone we went to sleep. But look at this. Whatever humans were doing during the dormancy, they weren't sleeping." The footage continued. It showed Velthari ships approaching Earth's solar system. 3 vessels. Beautiful and elegant, moving cautiously toward the inner planets. They sent greetings in multiple languages. They broadcast peaceful intentions. They offered trade, knowledge, and friendship. The ships reached Jupiter's orbit. And then they simply vanished. One moment they were there, 3 bright points on the scanner. The next moment, nothing. No explosion, no debris, no distress signal. Just gone. The footage jumped forward. It showed Velthari leaders in what must have been an emergency council. Even without sound, their fear was obvious. They gestured frantically, their body language radiating panic. Then the footage showed them building the warnings, carving them in stone, writing them in metal, broadcasting them into space. "What did we do to them?" Hana whispered. The footage continued, showing Vel 9 itself. The great cities full of life and light. Then slowly they began to dim. Not destroyed, just abandoned. The Velthari were leaving their cities, retreating to smaller communities, then to family groups, then to nothing. Within 50 years of their encounter with Earth, their civilization simply stopped functioning. "They died of fear," Ji-won said. Whatever they learned about Earth during the dormancy, it terrified them so badly that their entire civilization collapsed. Minho stared at the display. "We need to report this immediately." "Wait," Hana said. She was scrolling through files, searching for something. "There's more. There's a transmission here. From Earth." During the dormancy, she activated the file. Static filled the air, then cleared. A voice spoke, human but cold, without emotion or inflection. The words were in Old English, which the computer translated instantly. "The harvest is sufficient. Resources secured. Begin the long dream. Wake protocol set for Generation 12. The transmission ended. The 3 humans stood in silence, staring at the empty air where the words had hung. "What does that mean?" Minho asked finally. "Generation 12? Ji-won looked at him, her face pale. "I think it means us. I think it means we're Generation 12. Whatever humans were during the dormancy, whatever they became, we're not them. We're what came after. We're what they created when they went to sleep." "Then who's dreaming?" Hana asked quietly. "And what happens when they wake up?" Nobody had an answer.